Welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks, and today we're going to kind of talk about cash is king. And that term is used pretty often, but the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because in my last video, I was saying how there is a lot of concern and a lot of fear that the US is at risk for a recession. And so when we kind of think about a recession, typically people kind of stop spending money, they start saving money. And when I was kind of doing a lot of reading and different things around it, I did read an article, and this was probably like a month back, and it was talking about how Berkshire Hathaway has like $334 billion in cash right now. And I kind of wanted to talk about that because this actually came out prior to kind of where we are now, like with all of the tariff concerns and things like that. So Berkshire Hathaway, they released like their Q4 earnings and those big types of reports. They released that earlier in the year, and that's when they shared that they have $334 billion kind of like in cash reserves right now. And the reason why they have that is because in 2024, kind of like over the course of 2024, they were selling some of their two largest holdings. And their two largest holdings were in Apple and were in Bank of America. And so it was saying that they sold probably around $134 billion worth of stocks. And they're also a pretty well like cash producing company. So I was reading an article that says they have businesses in like insurance and railroads and different sectors. So they were also pulling in a few $1 billion as well in profit. And then on top of that, they were also selling some of their shares in Apple and Bank of America. And I felt like, again, when I read it maybe like a month ago, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But the reason why I'm talking about it now is just because, as I was telling you guys yesterday, there's a lot of data that's showing that a lot of consumers are still spending money. So, like, travel is still kind of a big thing, retail shopping, although, like, there are some malls that are struggling and things like that, like, spending is still pretty consistent, and that's why we aren't officially in a real recession. So I kind of felt like that was interesting. And then looking at how you have this big corporate company who has billions of dollars that they oversee, they're saving their money. And what was interesting about the fact that they're selling those shares, they're not really repurchasing anything right now. So a lot of like the shareholders in Berkshire Hathaway were kind of concerned because typically if you sell off shares, then you put that money or you deploy that money into other stocks. And right now, Warren Buffett is kind of saying like he kind of wants to hold that money because really, when he tends to deploy money or invest money into different companies, he's looking for good opportunities. So, pretty much, he was saying he wants low risk opportunities that is going to make them a lot of money. And right now, he doesn't really see a lot of opportunity. And I think that makes sense because if you go and you look at the different stock prices, I mean, a lot of company stock is pretty high right now. So I feel like for me personally, I definitely want to kind of like keep my eye on what they do with that money. I know that Warren Buffett has talked about how like he sees opportunity overseas, and he's talked about like in Japan's economy, he sees different opportunities, but here in the US, he doesn't really see a lot of opportunity. Now, when you think about all of the talks about like government spending and how the government needs to kind of shrink a lot of their spending, and you hear all of these talks about tariffs and all of these different things, again, it kind of puts the idea out there that we may be headed for a pretty significant recession. And if we are, it would make sense why a company like Berkshire Hathaway has so much cash available because recessions are what build these types of opportunities. Because he was saying you kind of get rewarded when people do a lot of dumb things, right? So let's say people overbuy things, they over leverage themselves, they overspend, and then a huge like economic crisis comes in, they're going to have to sell a lot of different things at a discount. And so for the people who were being smart with their money and they were saving their money, they're going to have a lot of cash to go in and kind of scoop up all of those deals. And I feel like there's a lot of speculation about that. Like a lot of people think that's kind of what he's waiting for because that's a lot of cash to have on hand. I think they were saying it's probably one of the highest amounts of cash reserve that a corporate company has on hand. So I think for us people who are looking to invest, it's definitely interesting because I want to see kind of where he does deploy that money. So I know that they were saying for him, he's very big on like crude oil and things like that. Again, he likes the Japanese market because he's investing in a lot of companies that are attached to like their food supply or just different things that they need to build their economy. So I feel like it's just something to kind of think about, to keep an eye on. Also, too, I feel like for somebody who is a smaller investor, it's definitely important for you to have cash as well. So then when these opportunities do start to hit, when we do start to see more of like an economic downturn, you do have the cash available to go ahead and invest in these opportunities. In one of the articles that I was reading, it was saying that Warren Buffett has kind of always had like a war chest of money. And it did say that he did do something similar in 2008. So at that time, when we had the huge housing crisis, it was saying that he had the opportunity to supply companies like Goldman Sachs and Bank of America with money. And because they were strapped for cash, he was able to obviously negotiate like favorable terms. And that resulted in like $1 billion of profit. So I'm wondering if Warren Buffett is kind of planning to do something similar. So I think right now there's so many different sectors that would be impacted by tariffs. If we do go into an official recession, I feel like there probably is going to be a lot of opportunity for him to kind of leverage that money and gain interest and all of these different things, or to buy a lot of stocks at a discount, probably do both because he, again, we're talking about $300 billion. So definitely a lot of opportunity. And I feel like even just in my head too, when I think about like the future of America, the future of housing and things like that, like we're already starting to see a lot of corporations buying up a lot of homes and properties. And that's also been one of the reasons why like buying a home is not as easy as it was 40 years ago. So I'm wondering if too, a lot of companies are planning to go in and like buy a lot of real estate and all these different things. So right now it's kind of like a wait and see. I think everybody is still trying to figure out what's going to happen, like with April 2nd and all of the tariffs and all of that. But I really feel like we'll start to see them deploy this money when we really are in a recession. So I would say for you as an investor, definitely save your money as well. I feel like although a lot of consumption is still happening, now is probably not the time to be spending a lot. Again, you can utilize like high yield savings accounts. You can still invest your money and things like that. But I definitely think whenever this recession hits, it's been prolonged for a little bit, but I definitely think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in it. But of course, you still have to be able to pay your bills. You still have to be able to pay your rent or your mortgage, your car note, buy food, all of these different things. We know gas is getting ready to increase most likely. We know food is getting ready to increase most likely. So having the ability to still pay for all of your household needs, your livelihood, and all of those things, and then also having money to be able to kind of tap into some of those opportunities, I feel like is going to be really important probably over the next 4 years or so. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought it was very interesting. You can definitely look it up. I always like to see what other people are doing with their money. So if Warren Buffett is saving his money, I feel like it's a safe bet for us to save ours. Again, in preparation for investing opportunities. So, as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? Again, I'm Joy Hicks. Thank you for watching and be sure to subscribe.